Welcome, friends. Hello today to you. My friends Oleg and Svetlana asked that I do a video on time. The Wheel of Time is a book that Carlos Castaneda produced, which was a collection of all the pertinent quotes that Don Juan shared with Carlos. The Wheel of Time, because Toltecs do not believe in reincarnation, they believe in parallel lives. They believe that we can move the Wheel of Time and we can enter the Wheel of Time and go from this time into other times. Like Don Juan would make Carlos watch the same leaf fall off the same branch of the same tree over and over. And we asked, how is that possible? How is it that one could not only witness that, but then make another person witness something? And these are the mysteries of the nonlinear side of things, and this is why shamans learn to hang out in silence for long periods of time, because doors open and you realize that this place isn't linear, and it's not about trying to make things be a certain way, but rather embrace the obstacle course that you were in, and then discover the secret of perception so that you can have experiences that are outside of the heaviness or importance of what's occurring in your life or in the collective. And that's eradicating self-importance, makes it possible to witness incredible things because you're not focused on yourself. You're engaged in perceiving what is possible with your perception. And then that leads to shattering the mirror of self-reflection, where you move beyond the limitations of reflecting and comparing yourself and become a perceiver, a traveler, a dreamer, one that is pursuing power, to perceive power, to become aware of power, because this is a world of power. And the hypnosis that keeps us from understanding that is what keeps us from realizing how powerful we are. So that's the key here, is that we are so much more than we realize, and to recognize that each person is conditioned in different ways. So timelessness, like what Don Juan offered Carlos, was that a secret to the world was that eternity is surrounding you. And that didn't mean anything to Carlos because he didn't have energy to make use of that understanding. But for Don Juan, he could maximize his use of his time here. And shamans say time is measured by intensity. So if you are on mushrooms, power plants, ayahuasca or something, you're going to have a different experience with the linear. It's going to become non-linear, most likely, which gives you a glimpse into what is actually going on. But it takes an adjustment to be able to handle that intensity without being on a power plant. And that's what Toltecs offer, the magical passes, the recapitulation, and the dreaming gates that are available to learn how to use from a sober way, to go from this perception of the world to discovering other layers of the onion, which would be destabilizing to most people unless they understood what was happening to them and had been prepared and trained themselves, right? So being able to hang out in the non-linear spaces is what prepares you for bigger journeys into what they call the second attention. And Don Juan said, I would not journey into the second attention, in a reckless manner for any reason. Like, it's a very dangerous thing to do. So we don't want to be reckless with power plants or with our perception, because it's, as he said, there are things worse than death. So our death is not the concern as much as our getting lost, right? And so I think it's really important, it's really sad that we're in a time where so many people are becoming developing what they call Alzheimer's, or becoming senile and unable to keep their reality intact. That's because I think for shamans, they realize that it's like the files are overloaded in the system, and everything starts to spill out, and it's not, and there's no foundation or structure to the organization of the file system, because they didn't recapitulate. Had they recapitulated, they would have purified and emptied that warehouse and made room for all kinds of new feelings and experiences. So the Toltecs don't say these things for no reason. This is a very real, applicable, art, and it leads to timelessness. It leads to being able to, for an individual like a shaman, one day of intensity is the equivalent to the lifetime of people who never discover what's possible with their perception. So being able to maximize your time, right? Waking up each day and realizing that you have the capacity to fully change your life today, and then the next day, and in each moment you can keep realizing how much potential there is to become nonlinear. But you eventually realize, in order to be nonlinear, you have to be extraordinarily grounded, otherwise it's destabilizing. So you end up having to take care of yourself in new ways, and magical passes serve as a great way to do that. But one could discover this stuff without having to do these strange movements. It's just a matter of, the different way in which the program will attempt to control you. Knowing ahead of time that the archonic forces find their way into everything. There's nothing safe from the influence that the predator, in the way that it pursues us. So we get to constantly be aware, in a sense on guard, and yet we get to learn how to let our guard down and enjoy our life so that we can be in the timelessness. So if we're taking ourselves really seriously, then we could get all caught up in this and think of it as spiritual warfare. But I think that's where the trap lies, is that we have to be sober enough to perceive that we are not the top of the food chain, and be able to handle that, and then understand how to free ourselves, not try to free others. There's no way to free somebody else from this type of slavery that we all are engaged in. It's a personal escape. But by doing your own work and able to do this, then you become capable of having your deja vu turns into having prophetic dreams. Your relationship with recapitulation makes it possible to go back and not only remember your memories, but other people's memories. We're all one. And so when you gain access to it all opens up, and that would be so intense, right? So just play with the recapitulation until it starts to reveal all the secrets that it has sitting there waiting for you to discover. It's like a treasure hunt. And you desire adventure. We all do. We all desire to go on a journey, to leave our home, to leave our comfort, and to go and experience something that will change us. And this is a way of doing that. This is a way of rewilding yourself, is to become timeless. Don Juan said to be of your time, right? So all these Amish people are caught, in my opinion. They're trying to hold on to something, and their energy that's associated with that is fear and attachment and needing, to try to preserve something that no longer exists. It's a very strange energy thing to observe. Are all traditions, actually. A lot of shamanic native traditions are trying to uphold the past, and it's so painful. It's an ego identification with things needing to be a certain way. We're dropped into these lifetimes, these parallel lives, to like kind of in the movie Cloud Atlas, is to make use of the experience and to continue to find solutions within the challenges. So the tyrants aren't going away. The world is set up this way for us to discover freedom, not for the collective. Although there'll be waves and surges of beautiful discovery that brings forward new knowledge and liberated experience, that doesn't mean that a utopian type of collective occurs. It just will transform into new challenges as the archonic forces, the flyers, as the Toltecs refer to them, continue to run through everyone's mind and find the weaknesses and the vulnerabilities, which is perfect to prepare us and teach us how powerful we are by exposing us. So the shadow work is such a key part to this knowledge base. And I've met many powerful shamanic dreamers who skip the shadow work and become monsters. And they're out there and they're training other people to do the same thing, and that's part of the world too. It will be hard lessons that they will receive as they get further lost in their illusion of grandeur, and their unwillingness to face people who can show them their pain that they're projecting out in the world by trying to convince themselves how powerful they are. So it's painful to watch in a sense, and we all have aspects of that. Like everything that we observe in others is just a reminder of what's possible within us, across the whole gamut, right? When you admire somebody for their freedom, or you're just triggered by their self-sabotage or whatever it is you're observing. We're not above or below any of these beings. Everyone got to exactly where they need to be within this situation to discover their timelessness or not. But it all is revealed at death. We are born with the totality of our being, or I should say we're conceived with the totality of our being, and then we die with the totality of our being. But if we could become aware of the nonlinear and be functional in the nonlinear through the gazing arts and being able to disassemble your perceptual reality and establish, another view, which really brings purpose and understanding to what our body wants in on. Our body wants to be able to handle that kind of shift of perception and have it happen throughout our day, not just on occasion when we eat mushrooms or go to sweat lodges or go to music. Eventually you learn to live in heightened awareness rather than have it happen on occasion. And that's the beauty and the freedom that's available to each person. And so rather than continue to compare ourselves, we want to really listen to the authentic guidance that's available to our unique situation. And then the recapitulation is so powerful that when you start to do it a lot, memories that are so beautiful and that you completely forgot about will literally come forward and smack you, like slap you across the face with feelings of great longing and melancholy. Moments in your childhood that were so pure and beautiful that in some ways it's very confronting to have them come back and be accessible, because then comparison can be a little like the longing to be in that purity and innocence, and those feelings can be overwhelming. So shamans develop that indifference and that detachment to be able to handle timelessness, nonlinear experiences, to be able to be taken back through the usher, which is a memory so real that you end up going back in time. And so dreaming is a real activity that can take one into the timeless states, like the Nawal Hulian and the Nawal Juan Matus. Both had experiences very different, but Juan Matus was placed in a world in which he aged 10 years in like an instant, because it's a different type of intensity. And then the opposite, the Nawal Hulian went into a world where he spent 10 years or so or longer, but when he came back he was only gone for a second. So like the movie Inception explains that, right? They're telling us about what's possible and making it technological so that we won't remember, we'll forget or overlook how simple that power is within our being. We don't need the gadgets. We're these people pretending they're flying into other worlds with rocket ships. We are the travel. This is your vessel to go to other worlds. You don't need a rocket ship to go to another reality. So we're being, the world's an inversion, a hoax, a means to get you to look outside of yourself, to distract you from how powerful you are, to your capacity to become timeless, your capacity to become uh, a traveler, right? Like these Toltecs, they go out and see symbology, they see sacred geometry and go inside of it and travel in it, and it opens into tunnels. They become uh, like almost like an animal seeking perceptual expansion is a means to evolve, and there's great purpose in it. You're building a muscle when you learn to do dreaming and see and witness other worlds or other details of other layers. It's quite beautiful. It's quite healing to have that access, right? So, um, how one learns to stop their thoughts long enough in order to have an understanding that will change them. It's quite uncomfortably intense to face the dialogue and recognize how constant it is. So it's not something to try to beat yourself up over. It's something to find a way to your silence that is health, like that is, you know, that does not have any shame or guilt dynamics around it, so that you're not beating yourself up, but you're allowing yourself to follow a more natural course. So you're learning to just follow what it is that does it for you, but also recognize the thing that used to do it for you is no longer doing it for you, because your future self is trying to, you know, unbind you from your comforts that are keeping you from your wildness, so you can really unlock how powerful and mysterious you are, and therefore how powerful and mysterious this realm is. I mean, that's the beauty, is that we're in a paradise. Most people have no idea, right? And they're focused on what's going on. But what is really going on is what's you're feeling. What feelings are you feeling? That's what's going on. And I am just as much recognize that I use all kinds of ways to avoid my feelings and convince myself of things that need to be done, or prioritize things over what is surfacing. And then I'm so lucky to have people in my life to be like, what are you running from? What are you avoiding? What are you not feeling right now? And helping me to drop into these places that take me out of my autopilot and allow me to be in my pain. And I don't think people realize how much pain they're in, or allow themselves to really revisit pain from the past. And so people question the recapitulation in that respect. Like, why would you go back and dig up this stuff? And there's validity to that. Jason Bashir's of Archaic said, do not do that. Like, that's why people get stuck. And there's validity to that. So recapitulation is definitely an approach that has a strategy to ensure that one does not get, overwhelmed. And so the movements allow one to disperse any energy that is overwhelming. Once you understand the simplicity of being able to move, whether it's through your own dance of power that you've discovered, or convulsing, or shaking, or primaling. The magical passes, though, have a specific intention. They're very powerful and effective as a tool to move through challenging feelings. And so the more you do those, the more you will start to step into timeless experiences, or even you'll be walking down maybe a street in a city, and all of a sudden, for a moment, everyone's wearing clothing from another time. And you'll snap out of it, and you'll question what you saw. But you allowed yourself to revisit. You slipped right into another layer of the onion, in which you were in the 1950s for just a second, right? And then it's probably very likely that will happen to you again for years. And even then, again, it'll happen, and you'll wonder if you were just hallucinating, I would argue there's no such thing as a hallucination. We are all witnessing energy all the time, that we just have these filters that are based on conditions, and then we learn to unbind from those filters and have raw, shieldless experiences with energy, and that prepares us for deeper and deeper discoveries of what this vessel is capable of doing. You have a physical body and you have an energy body behind you that's much smaller and compact, your astral body that can go and do all kinds of incredible things. So when you're driving down the road, or say you're in a bus, or you're a passenger in a car, you can be looking outside along the road and you can be playing with your energy body. It can be doing all kinds of flips and jumps and slides and skidding around the sides, and you can engage this part of your being that wants to be engaged with your imagination, your creativity. And then when you get to mix those worlds through surfing and snowboarding and skating and all the things that really allow one to fully kind of blow their chakras open, that creates an incredible passion for your existence. So a lot of the Toltec practitioners get caught up in they try to do all the things that Carlos did, and they don't discover their own passions for life. So we have to get creative and honest about an individual, unique path of heart that is allow us to get to know ourselves rather than try to copy, because then we'll be caught in self-reflection, comparing ourselves. So much love, timelessness, time for yourself from the construct by actually inviting more intensity into your life rather than less, and allow it to infuse your dreams, infuse your passion, whether it's your work or your relationship that you're in. um, Much love to Oleg and Svetlana for asking to talk about time. I'm happy to talk about it some more if you have more questions. Thank you, everyone.